previously on Alone in the Dark.
Here's the stone you've carried for so long.
When Lucifer was deposed from heaven and forced to live among men as a mortal, he designed an artifact that would carry his soul through time. Lucifer was trapped in his own creation, but I have released him.
Right. I'm heading to the old castle. Build this lock and maybe we'll see the end of this soon.
Crowley here. Paddington was wrong to give you the stone. It was destined for me. Just speak one little phrase and I can pull you out of there.
The stone deserves better than that ridiculous prophecy.
If the stone is cursed, why do you want it? What about the path of life?
So, last time around, we ended on a metaphorical cliffhanger, and it seems we now find ourselves in a very literal cliffhanger situation. As Edward hangs for dear life, there's no other direction to go than up. And while this might seem like a fairly dangerous situation, it's pretty much exactly the same thing that we ran into at the very start of the game. Just have to deal with dodging some falling boulders and debris. Just keep on pushing upward, further upward. Thing is, though, kind of makes you wonder how long that helicopter is going to stay anchored up to the cliffside there, and well, needless to say, we definitely do not want to fall down into the rushing waters below. Even though it doesn't seem like it, we are making good headway here. Just it seems the closer we make our way further up the cliffside, the more dangerous things seem to become. Still, I think we want to head off to that light off to the left-hand side there. We do take a little bit of damage. We are almost there.
Mr. Convey! Are you okay?
Kind of makes you feel a little bit bad for that poor nameless helicopter pilot. Though it also brings into question exactly what happened to Crowley. Still, even though we do find ourselves in a dangerous position, we do have a brand new text message here. And, well, over the course of this chapter, we are going to be pretty much inundated with messages from Sarah as she continues to delve further into Theo's diary. Seems here he's talking about that chamber that we found, and it seems like there is a piece missing that looks like a lock. And as we kind of covered last time, more than likely, Sarah is going to be that lock, and we are going to be that key. Still, we don't really have too much time to delve into that, though we can take in some of these very bizarre advertisements in the train car here. Definitely want to get the message across regarding teeth. Still, I get the feeling that we should not linger too long in this train car, though we were lucky enough to not just plummet out the back end. So we do have some unexpected company here as we try to make our way upwards. And as you can imagine, fighting these guys on this rope is not only perilous, but it is also pretty cumbersome as they start to shoot poison into your eye. Now, there is not a set amount that will spawn on the rope. I think they come down in waves and are pretty much timed. So, your best bet to save on resources is just to kind of keep pushing forward and maybe not try to dawdle for too long. We definitely do not want to end up falling to our deaths here. Though, quite honestly, it's going to be the least of our concerns. Right now, what's probably going to be our primary concern, and for those that probably have played this at home, is going to primarily be the fact that, at this point, you're probably going to be running a little bit low on supplies. Especially if you manage to take a beating from the rocks and fire, and maybe those little rats on the rope there. Well, you're kind of be hurting for some healing items. It seems, though, that we might have found some company.
Hey, where the hell do you think you're going? Just get in here.
Well, that would normally seem like a good thing.
What the hell was that?
Instead, it is just to lure us into a very dangerous enemy encounter. In fact, this enemy encounter, I would say, is probably more difficult than that very large enemy encounter we had back in the museum where I think it was upwards of 8 enemies were coming at us at once. What makes this enemy encounter more difficult is just the fact that while there are very large amounts of numbers here, you are probably going to be hurting for resources, and, well, if you don't press forward, you're not going to be able to find some of the caches of items laying in wait. And we will get to that message shortly. Because first off, we need to protect ourselves. Especially right now, we don't really have a means to safely make some flammable bullets. We just kind of have to hunker down and try to find, well, this very nice storehouse of items in here. Yeah, if you just stay out there on the platform, you'll be pretty much mobbed by not only enemies, or not only these humanoid enemies, but also by a small cadre of rats that will pretty much constantly blind you. And I do apologize that it is a little bit dark in here. Just trying my best to survive and, bottleneck in some of the remaining enemies. And while I do have a bit of a reprieve, it's time to try to load up on some items and finish off the few remaining stragglers. Because that initial wave was, well, just that, it was an initial wave. After that first 4 or 5 humanoid enemies is taken down, a harder wave of another 4 or 5 enemies will spawn in. And there is a very key reason why you still do not want to head out onto the platform just yet. It's because amongst these smaller and even larger bruiser type humanoid enemies here, in the far distance there is one of the more high-end demon humanoid enemies that can, quite frankly, quickly pepper you with little daggers. Just with a well-placed bottle and a little bit of patience, you can take them out pretty easily. And that's the end of that enemy encounter. I will say, though, that I did make that quite a lot easier than it normally is. It just so happens that sometimes luck is on my side, and sometimes the enemies kind of behave in, I guess, positive ways to our end goal, which is to murder them. And now that we have some time to breathe, we can look at that new message. And this message is not that helpful. It just seems that Theo is reading up on the afterlife, and I guess how the prophecy regarding the stone and the afterlife kind of intermingle, though he doesn't actually know for certain why and how. I mean, it's always been kind of a goal with mankind to attain immortality. It's just, well, we don't really know how that all connects with what's going on currently. Yeah, just going to go ahead and refill on some of the items I managed to burn through going through those last couple of enemies. There are plenty of full bottles of explosive liquid in here. And I think there's even a couple of empty bottles, though you don't really get much use out of those. And also, you might be wondering what this little air duct up here is for. And you can use that as kind of a temporary hidey hole, along with, well, whatever is up there. Yeah, we'll find out what that is shortly enough. But yeah, the other function of that air duct is to lead into the adjacent bathroom. Yeah, you can kind of hide up there and juke around and confuse the enemies out here in case you're having a little bit of problems. And you do want to make sure and hit up this other bathroom because it has quite a storehouse of bullets and also a first aid station. Though we sadly did kind of luck out here and were not able to find a first aid spray. Still, I think we are doing pretty good all around item-wise. I'm going to hang on to this double-sided tape. We are going to want to use that for something in the future. But yeah, for now, I think we can continue on and greet our new friends in the subway car.
Just come on in. Follow me. Let's try to climb up to the roof. Oh my God!
Just what is grabbing the subway car is a bit of a mystery right now. Still, it looks like we don't really have any other way to go than up the ropes here. Obviously, we want to make our traveling upwards a little bit easier by taking out all these rats ahead of time. I'm sure they might intend for you to climb the rope and shoot them from a first-person perspective, but it's kind of a fool's game. Still, whatever these ropes are and whatever this fleshy structure is supposed to be, definitely seems like we're causing it a little bit of pain. There's really no other way we can go except further inwards into this very odd-looking tunnel. It honestly brings to mind the tunnels near the end of Alone in the Dark 1. Though I get the impression that these aren't really tunnels. Instead, it's something a lot grosser. Yeah, I kind of get the feeling that the devs want to have a little bit of a joke here, making us climb up through what I can only assume is the asshole of this very large vampire bat. And it's quite an imposing figure. It almost makes me think that it could have been a boss fight that they cut. Put all that aside, we do have two brand new messages. One of them is regarding that lens that we found in the circular antechamber. Theo goes into how much work it required to put it all together, but it is very necessary for this quote-unquote path of light. Also, we get more information regarding the reasoning that the alchemists/Templars bought up Central Park, and it was to basically stop any other development in the area. Pretty much to stop well, I guess anybody from uncovering their secret machinations. But that won't stop us, because we have a objective marker that we do need to get to, and well, it does seem nice initially that they do give us a car. They just managed to leave out the keys. And this gives us our first opportunity to do a pretty cumbersome little mini-game. And that is, well, hot wiring a car. Yeah, we could have done this earlier on in the game. It's just, most of the time there are keys in the car, and hot wiring is kind of cumbersome, because the combination for wires is always randomized, and it's rarely ever that you have to connect these same two colored wires. So, it's mostly just guesswork. And as far as I can tell, the only cars you ever have to actually hotwire are the police cars. And strangely enough, the police cars aren't really any better than any other car in the game. As far as I can tell, well, I mean, every car pretty much handles the same, has the same amount of endurance and speed. They all seem to be the exact same. So I guess outside of just sheer availability, there's really no reason to pick a cop car over any other car. And in fact, whenever you have to cover kind of short distances, it might just be better to forego a car entirely. I mean, they did put all the effort into this open world, and it does have some atmosphere and mystique to it. Our objective right now is the castle on the hilltop there. And as we approach it, we are given yet another message. And this one, strangely, isn't about the castle itself, but instead is our first real, I guess, actual mention of the roots of evil. Yeah, the roots are apparently conduits and connections to Lucifer, and by getting rid of them, we are, I guess, getting closer to Lucifer's presence, so I guess that explains why we can see things a little bit clearer each time we burn them down. Also, the closer we get, the closer we seem to get sucked into a scary story, as it comes a dark and stormy night at the ye olde castle in Central Park. And yeah, we just get super overwhelmed with all these messages from Sarah. This one goes into more about the other lines of the prophecy and how the one carrying the medallion will be the one to overthrow Lucifer. Which is why it's so important that we need to hold on to this medallion. And it's also pretty important that we need to defend ourselves because, yeah, since this is our main objective, you can bet that it is going to be well defended. Yeah, our old friend Fissure is back, but this time I've got the drop on him because I was able to figure something out. And that is how to beat that horrible QuickTime event. Yeah, I guess what you're supposed to do is just pull in the direction that's indicated until you get next to Geo, and then press A, and then he'll grab onto it. It's just, yeah, it's still better just never to be grabbed by the fissures. They just do a tremendous amount of damage. And now that we are fully out of healing items, I guess there is no other recourse than see what is waiting for us inside the old castle. Which seems to have been built by this very lovely gentleman here. Nice friendly face for the mysterious Templar. Now, our journey into the old castle will not be that simple, though they really didn't expect Edward to have the key to the city. Thing is that, well, a locked door is going to be the least of our worries with the old castle. Because our objective suddenly changes, not just to getting inside the old castle, but we're going to need a bit higher spectral vision to see the secret inside the castle itself. Now, you see the objective over there says our spectral vision needs to be at least 30 for the next objective. And that is why you might have noticed earlier on that suddenly there appeared a whole lot of more staticky spots on the map. And this is kind of a part that frustrates quite a lot of people playing this game. I mean, this is the second to last chapter, and you probably haven't touched any of the roots of evil, and suddenly having to destroy like 15 or 16 of them to progress can be a little frustrating. Good thing is, I'm going to leave all that to a bonus video. Not to say that it is boring, but, well, it's just kind of a waste to include what ended up being about 20 minutes of kind of difficult platforming and puzzle solving. So, for now, we're just going to stick to the main plot here in the primary videos. Yeah, by destroying or getting up to 30 spectral vision, we can now see mysterious alchemic symbols. And both our Tips and Sarah pretty much indicate that is the case now. So without further ado, let's try to solve this mysterious riddle of the old castle and the unseen symbols. First things first, though, I do want to set up our final favorite slot with using the lens and our flashlight, because we are going to need to use that quite a bit. You can already kind of see it there. But in case you needed any additional help, knowing that you are ready to solve this puzzle, yeah, Sarah does give you another very quick message that doesn't really help. Now, I don't know if there's supposed to be a vibration or any other kind of clue regarding these symbols and where they are. For the most part, though, you are just kind of left walking around this castle, closing your eyes and hoping that you might stumble across one of these hidden away symbols. Once you do find one, you just have to shine your light on it, and somewhere in the castle, one of 6 symbols has lit up. That means we do have 5 more symbols to find, and, well, we are a bit low on flashlight power. There honestly is just a massive amount of batteries strewn across the castle here, so I think they kind of assume that you probably would not have any batteries up to this point, just because, well, I mean, the flashlight really doesn't get that much usage. But now that we are all powered up with flashlight batteries, it's now time, well, to start poking around for these symbols, and I will say, I mean, I'm wanting to say that there should have been some hint here, because it can be a bit cumbersome just to blindly stumble around outside the castle here trying to find them. Thankfully, we don't have to deal with that, because I just happen to know where all of them are. Some of them are pretty obvious, like that one that we just found. Some of them, though, yeah, they are pretty well hidden. Not to mention, there is a little extra added hiccup after you've found them, in that trying to get them to register properly can be a little bit difficult as well. Yeah, after we get halfway through the symbols, we actually do get a pretty useful message from Sarah here, from Theo's diary. And it explains exactly what the Path of Light is. Seems that to overthrow the beast, or Lucifer, the Path of Light, which is apparently an actual, test of courage and value. Well, it's meant to test whether or not you have the power to overcome Satan or become one of his minions. Or I guess become his vessel in this case. And all in all, I don't know if I really go with Theo's mindset that Edward is really the person to go down that path of light. Though in turn, I don't think I would have gone with Crowley either. He seemed pretty dead set on just letting the world burn. Yeah, the symbol right here, I think, is going to be our last one on the exterior of the castle. Just want to be a little careful with this one. Because it does summon a couple of bruisers to beat us up. And I guess they just do not respect the cutscene invulnerability that most games have. Still, we do not have to worry about them, as they can get pretty hooked up on the stairs back there. We just need to run inside the castle and get the final two symbols. Now, the first symbol inside here can be pretty easy to miss. But once you have found it, it's just a matter of knocking down the painting to get a proper line of sight on it. Also, it's just a case of lining it up properly. You pretty much have to be straight on and at a relative distance to hit it properly. But now that all the easy symbols are out of the way, now comes the difficult part, which is getting the final symbol in this very tiny room full of instant death black goo. Now, glow sticks are not something you get very often in the game, and they aren't really that useful as a light source per se, but they are really great at dealing with the black goo. Because as they are rolling along the ground, they will pretty much kill any black goo they come across. And once they do land in one spot, they are a pretty long-lasting source of light. So, that is why they are nice enough to leave some glow sticks here on the desk. And you might think that light source in the room is going to help us out as well, but that is just a trap. In fact, I'm still not feeling 100% on the light coverage in there, so I'm just going to make a few little additional spots of light here with this burning chair. And it may seem like a lot of unnecessary caution for this, but please bear in mind that I did fail this particular lighting challenge a couple times in my test run, and it did end up wasting quite a bit of time. And just like that, we now have unlocked whatever is waiting for us up on top of the castle. Just, well, obviously these stairs are not going to be our means to make our way up there. So we are going to have to use our brains and do a little bit of detective work to figure out how we can make our way upwards. Now, I didn't really notice anything initially as we were making our way around the castle. It's not really something we can easily scale, but yeah, that light that managed to get pulled out of the room previously was attached to a longer rope here, or wire that seems to run all the way up to the roof. And that is going to be our means to make our way, hopefully, to whatever the secret in the castle is.
How are things going, Edward?
Fine. It's a wonderful night for the end of the world.
Listen, I've been reading Theo's notes, and it seems that the person who reaches the end of the path of light will have to make a critical choice concerning the fate of humanity. It's not clear, but it seems that by choosing, this person will call the Lightbringer to Earth. And as we've discussed earlier, that might not be such a great idea. Will it save us or destroy us? It doesn't say. This is crazy, Edward.
Once again.
Sadly, we do not have too much time to ponder on the possibility of prophecies and what bringing the Lightbringer to Earth might entail, but just because we have to deal with a very large demon here in a very small area with pretty much very dwindling supplies. Thing is, if you are fairly aggressive, or if you do manage to have a well-placed Molotov, you can make pretty short work of him. It's just if you do manage to die during that fight, you're going to run into a pretty cumbersome issue where once you die and respawn, you are going to have to watch that little cutscene again, and it is completely unskippable. And, yeah, I fully admit to having to watch that little cutscene probably about 8 times just because I managed to make my way up here, not really realizing that I would have to be involved in a fairly dangerous fight. We just have a little bit of fire to take care of. And with all that, well, we have finally made our way all the way to the top. We now get to figure out what this mysterious piece of masonry is all about. Though first, we do have our final 2 messages for the chapter. First is being just what exactly the Philosopher's Stone is. Well, we already know that it does house Lucifer, but it seems that the reason that it managed to give people power and, I guess, riches and all that type of nonsense is because, well, Lucifer put a magical aura around it to make sure it was never destroyed. So, they managed to propagate its own legend and just, sully people throughout all of history. And the very final diary entry that we have here is just the difficulties that Theo had in his life. He was not able to figure out what the Path of Light entailed. His budget was cut. Just a whole lot of problems. But, good news, Theo. We finally succeeded in what you couldn't. Not too much up here, though. It's a bit lackluster. All we have is what appears to be, looks like the diagram of some phases of the moon. But it's that diagram that's going to lead us into our final answer for the chapter here. We just need to focus the telescope here on, that's right, the moon.